Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Dean, is the supply chain fixed yet?
I laugh heartily.
Why did you laugh?
With a robust chuckle, he laughs.
I mean, it's just like just like a few switches you got to flip, right?
Oh, if only it could be that simple, my friend.
All right. Do we need to send in like a MacGyver type?
We need MacGyver in the
MacGruber?
biggest way. Yes. We need duct tape. We need caulk. We need all kinds of
what
stuff.
about like the Impossible Mission Force, the A-Team?
Marvel Universe.
Who can get it done? Yeah.
I mean, yes, all of the above.
Well, all jokes aside, there are still a lot of headaches, obviously, in the supply chain.
There are.
And while a lot of those issues are kind of out of our control, directly at least, there's some broad, big issues that we just don't have any particular control over.
This is true.
We wanted to take a look a little bit at where we are, what's next, and maybe if our channel and our VARs can help in some way.
There's some solutions, right?
Yeah.
Where there's pain, there's opportunity.
Exactly.
So that's what we're looking at.
So we have Dave Frick from Code on with us today. He's going to help us talk a little bit about this. We're going to get into
Very excited.
what he's seeing, what's going on out there, what him and Code are paying attention to in supply chain and inventory right now. We're going to talk about this the shift in demand and what's been going on that's kind of led to some of these issues. We talk about what's next. We'll make Dave make some predictions about the future.
So I don't need my crystal ball. Dave needs his crystal ball.
Exactly. He needs his crystal ball.
Yes.
Today, right.
All right.
And he might tell us if maybe there's any other crises looming. Not that we need one right now.
Like, can we have some normality
just
for a
in
little
case,
bit?
Yeah.
All right.
Ideally, he tells us, nope, everything looks great.
All right.
We'll talk a little bit about inventory in particular, how companies are struggling with that, maybe what we can do to help there, what Code's doing to tackle some of these issues. Then we'll get onto our usual VAR value stuff where we give them a little insight to our VARs about maybe how they can help out with here. And of course, what's TEConnecting with us?
Man, I feel like I need a bar stool and a drink to get through this one. I don't know. There's a lot to cover when it talks about supply chain.
The Bon Appetit Kitchen's right nearby here.
There you go. Yeah,
there's probably
one studio over.
Yeah, there's probably some beverages in the refrigerator there. We'll tell Dave just to grab something out of his fridge and he's got it and bring it over. So, all right, it's time for us to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, Dave Frick from Code is with us today. Dave is the Director of Operations. Dave, welcome to the show. We appreciate having you on today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe your day-to-day operation at Code.
Hey, thanks for having me. I've been in the supply chain world for about 39 years right now. I started back in 1983 working in manufacturing and all avenues or all aspects of the supply chain throughout my career. At Code, I've been here about 18 months, and my role and my operations team role here is basically planning, forecasting, sales, and execution on getting our product out into the channel.
Man, you've seen it all then. How much time in the supply chain?
It's I tell you, I thought I had seen it all, but a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I saw things that have never occurred.
I was just going to say, that was going to be my next question. Have you seen anything close to what we've been dealing with lately, or is this pretty new?
No, and I'll tell you, I have not met anybody in the industry that says, "Oh yeah, I remember this back in the day." This is something that's never happened, and hopefully it won't happen again once we get out the other side of this.
Yeah, those pesky global pandemics are, don't tend to be a very cyclical event,
Yeah. Well, and then when you pile on all the things that other things that have been piling on, it's just, it's crazy.
Yes, very much so.
But 39 years experience in the industry, we got a good.
I think we got the guy.
We got the guy. Yeah. He's going to tell us all about.
He's the flips. They're the switch flipper. He's the MacGyver, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
I like the idea of getting the Marvel folks to help us. I think let's get some Avenger help out there.
Yeah. I think you just about need a superhero team at this point to fix some of these problems.
No doubt.
It'd be nice if Thor could just fly out there and grab some boats, him and Hulk, and just bring him to shore for us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, all right. So obviously, yes, supply chain is still challenged at best. And obviously the pandemic, the restrictions are starting to ease a little bit. but we also have labor shortages that are still, a huge issue, whether it's just the shortages that came out of the pandemic in general, or the fact that so many people are resigning, the great resignation, trying out different jobs, demanding better conditions, better pay. Inflation's obviously an issue right now. We've had severe weather events. I just heard about that Abbott baby formula plant had to shut down again, this time because of a severe weather event that shut them down for a couple days
Can't
again.
win. Those folks can't
Yeah,
win.
exactly.
Yeah.
We got a war in Ukraine. Lots of stuff that's affecting several industries right now. So what are you hearing right now on the ground when you're talking to your customers and folks in the supply chain? What's Code talking about right now? Is there any light at the end of the tunnel here?
I would love to say that this is going to be done in 6 months, but nobody knows. I think that the supply of materials has actually stabilized. It's just not like it used to be. So we've gone from 22, 26 week lead times just a year ago to where we're out to 60, 66 week lead times on semiconductors. And I hate to call it the new norm, but I think that it's going to be with us for a while. The demand in the market today is outpacing supply, and all the great technologies that have been evolving over the last few years have really put a stress on a supply chain that has underinvested over the last decade.
And when you say that, Dave, do you speak of infrastructure itself, the supply chain, the ability to handle it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about the infrastructure. I mean, we've seen in the news this year the billions of dollars that the big semiconductor manufacturers are investing in new facilities around the globe. But that hadn't been done for the decade before. So I think it caught the big boys by surprise as well.
No doubt about it. I mean, we're one of the benefactors here close to Ohio. Well, I live in Ohio. Of course, Intel's building a ginormous chip plant there. There's investments being made in Mexico. There are global investments happening, but your point's a valid one. We got catch up to make first, and then we can start getting back into a time when the supply is maybe meeting the demand. But from a component standpoint, Dave, let's stay there for just a second. Beyond semiconductors and chips, are there other things that are either not getting quite the headlines that they should be getting, that are impacting production and things of that nature, that are outside of those two?
Absolutely. I mean, plastic resins right now, I don't hear much about it in the news, but the resin availability is becoming very, very tight these days. We're now getting quoted up to 40 weeks to get resin pellets in for some of the injection molding that we do in our plastics. So that was affected last year by the freeze in Texas, and it hasn't recovered. It's continued to get worse. I think we've had problems with copper foil that's used in a lot of the components, PC boards, and things like that. That's been a challenge as well. So some of the raw materials, the stuff that's actually dug out of the earth, is becoming more difficult to get our hands on just because of the demand for the products that we all love.
So the demands on the manufacturing side, is it being pinched by logistics and the inability now, it seems like, to move stuff around as efficiently or as we were, or the backlog has created these inefficiencies? What are your thoughts, some of your thoughts there?
It's interesting you talk about backlog. We had some conversations with some suppliers just recently about what their backlog looks like. And they say it looks the same as it did a year ago, which I actually think is an encouraging comment, because a year ago, we thought everybody was doing panic buying, and they were stockpiling parts if they could get their hands on them. And when I'm told that the backlogs are about the same as they were last year, it makes me think that there is some rational behaviors happening out there in the manufacturing world. But beyond the materials and the logistics constraints, you talked about the labor shortage. There truly is a labor shortage, and it's global. It's not just here in the U.S. So, we've got suppliers and sub-tier suppliers around the globe, and they're all complaining that they still haven't gotten back to full factory labor forces yet, and with no restrictions in certain places. So it's just like people decided to do a reset and rethink what they wanted to be in life.
I'm going to throw another one at you real quick, Dave, before we move on, because I've been kind of pondering, and I'd love to get your take on this a little bit. I know that some manufacturers, I don't know if Code is one of these or not, but are shifting where components are being made. Maybe, I don't want to call it nearshoring some of that stuff, but certainly you hear in the news that Mexico is becoming a benefactor of many organizations, many manufacturers trying to bring some of the manufacturing back
a little closer to home, at least.
A little closer to home, to the Americas, if you will, maybe out of APAC into the Americas, or at a minimum, increasing, because obviously what we learned is when all your supply is coming out of one area, and you're putting all your eggs in one basket, you know what they say, don't do that, right? So now other manufacturers are trying to, at a minimum, come up with other options that are not all there.
Right.
And maybe that's having a continuing, strain on the supply, right? So instead of making this plastic case only in APAC, we're going to make it there. Oh, and we're going to have a subsequent supplier in Mexico as well. And so now the demand has just grown a little bit more because we need some stability in supply. What do you think, David? Are you seeing that? And maybe not just from a Code perspective, but from other people that you talk to and other manufacturers and stuff. Is that a truism? Are you starting to see some of these pull back and come bring manufacturing back into the Americas, if you will?
Absolutely. I think that 3 years ago, you wouldn't be talking about that at all. People were still of the mindset that we needed to go where the least expensive labor was in the world. And I think that was a real bad decision back then. You've got to look at the best value proposition for the manufacturing, and diversifying where you manufacture. I think that's going to become a way of life for all companies moving forward, because we need to de-risk the supply chain to ensure that our customers can keep their products flowing. And that's the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah, and that comes with some expense, and obviously inflation is happening. And when you hear, because we're not immune to that. I mean, we've had almost every manufacturer across the board has increased pricing for a variety of reasons, right? This is just maybe one of those reasons. Component prices are going up, et cetera, et cetera. But so there's going to be some pain, until that equates itself out. And I don't know if it takes, to your point, Dave. And John, you asked the question: is there light at the tunnel? I hope so. There's got to be someday.
It's like a little pinpoint right now.
Yeah,
maybe,
I mean, at some point we're gonna, we'll look back and we'll laugh as jovially as I laughed at the begining of this podcast about our current situation.
It might be a nervous laugh, like, remember that? Yeah.
But you're starting to see. Well, anyway, go ahead.
Well, I was just say this makes me think of innovation too. Like, I'm concerned that there's a lot of companies that they're going to have to stop with innovating right now, or not bother with a lot of these interesting projects they might have had on their whiteboard and stuff that they wanted to try next. Because when your whole focus is how do we fulfill our obligations and our inventory and our orders that are existing right now, we just need to devote every bit of energy we have to that. And not even thinking about the next, iteration. It's one of those things I don't know we can see right now because we're so in the weeds, and maybe we're starting to see a little bit of it since we've been in it for a couple of years now. But I do wonder if, give us another decade down the road, if we're going to look back and say man, there was a lot of innovation that got stifled during this time because we just couldn't get what we needed to do, and even to just try out some science projects and try some new stuff out.
I'm more of an optimist.
Are you? Good.
So I'm not going to think pessimistic. I think the innovation is there, and I was reading some use cases that you have on the Code site, Dave. I don't know if you're aware of these, but I think innovation is going to come through stuff like this. I mean, there was a use case about their Cortex decoder barcode. So you guys, obviously, your scan engine is something that it can be utilized in the SDK. there are some really innovative companies out there that are developing some solutions to try to optimize existing infrastructure and things of that to help mitigate some of these issues that are out there. So I'm praying some of the innovation.
Well, as usual, it's my job to be the cynic.
Yes,
but I like that you're the.
Do you see where I'm going with
here.
that?
Yes, I agree. Yeah,
right. Yeah. And it's through companies like Code that are enabling that by having those types of things.
Well, trust me, I want to be wrong about this. I hopefully we find out we didn't experience kind of a downturn in innovation and new products and new ideas because of this. That instead maybe we got inspired. I mean, because let's be honest, there has been a lot of really interesting new tech that has come out of the pandemic as a whole, and has come out of this whole necessity as a whole. That's fascinating. We talk about them all the time.
For sure.
Hopefully that continues to be the case.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, let's kind of shift then and talk about this, the current consumer environment. And, as we've all been stuck at home, we all got used to, we're going to order all of our stuff online. We're not shopping out at stores anymore. We're more demand for rapid, fast delivery on time and
returns.
And returns.
And returns, yes.
Which I almost feel like we should do a whole episode about returns sometime. Like,
dude,
that's its own nightmare.
It's crazy, bro.
So we know that's happening. So, is there any new challenges that you think might be coming down the road that we haven't even really started thinking about yet? Do you see the potential for any of their crises looming? Again, I don't want there to be more, but it'd be nice. It's still nice to get out in front of this stuff if you're seeing this coming and thinking there could be an issue here.
Yeah, I think it's not a new issue. I think it's just expanding on a current one, which is just the logistics of delivery on the new way of buying things. When people are buying from home, they're clicking a mouse and something shows up at the door in an hour. When we double the number of people doing that, how are we going to get that material to them with the same level of service as they're experiencing today? And I think there's some real challenges there as we look forward. The labor shortage is not overlooking those delivery services. Right? They're having the same challenges that everyone else is. If you think about it, you order something online for same day delivery, they're dropping packages off at midnight now.
Yeah. Right?
Just because they want to get it to you as when they have people available to deliver. And, that will continue to be an issue. I think I've seen some advertisements recently on fast food restaurants talking about drone delivery to people. I mean, that's you talk about tech and innovation stopping, that's pretty innovative right there. And if we can get it to work, great. But I think we're a ways away from having that kind of solution going mainstream.
Oh, for sure we are. Yeah. I mean, we talk about drones and stuff like that. We had a summit recently and had a gentleman from a company called Autonomy give us kind of the down low on automation, autonomous vehicles and delivery and stuff like that. Dave, you're right. There are definitely some challenges that are happening there.
Yeah.
You know what I'll throw on the table here, because I was reading an interesting article on it as well. It's the first mile and the last mile, and the mountain of information data that is there. And this article is making the case that really what we need are companies to start playing nice in this first mile and last mile part of it, because that's the supply chain area that's really feeling the pain, if you will, right? So after the product is manufactured, getting it to the port. I mean, we all know about the port issues and stuff like that, but that's a much more mature part of the supply chain logistics than the first mile and the last mile, specifically the last mile. But anyway, they're saying, thousands of supply chain companies are sitting on mountains of data as it relates to that. And they're advocating, that there needs to be more of a community involvement and a sharing of that data so that you can breed innovation. Right. You see what I'm saying? So, if something's stuck in a crossdock somewhere and only a certain one entity knows it, but there needs to be a delivery company or something like that also needs that information.
Right.
I get it. as consumers and we expand our desire to have everything delivered to us in short or no time, you're going to have to see innovation like this, the sharing of information, the sharing of data, in order to facilitate some of that stuff.
Yeah.
That's the only way it's really going to happen.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
Yeah, or else we're going to be kind of in this spot that we're in. But that's kind of the part of the crisis that's maybe not looming, but to Dave's point, it's here, right? It's the things that we're dealing with. Well, unfortunately, Dave has to deal with every single day.
Yeah, you and I just get to talk to people.
We just talk about it. Yeah, he's got to deal with it. He's got a whiteboard behind him that's full of information,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Well, then let's talk about the problem of inventory in general, then, and in particular, I guess here. Why are so many companies still struggling to carry adequate stock and replenish their inventory? I mean, again, I know we know the broader issues, but I also do feel like by now, 2 years in, we should have a pretty good idea about like, all right, here's what we need to get by. Here's what we need to be thinking about to get ourselves stocked 6 months or 8 months down the road. But that still doesn't seem to be happening. It feels like there's a lot of folks that are still just struggling with inventory. So what are you seeing around that right now?
Yeah, so I go back to the comment I made earlier about the manufacturer's backlogs seem to be stabilized. I think that part of the reason why we see this gap in inventory for so many companies these days is that we went from a 26-week lead time to a 66-week lead time over a 4 to 5 week period in 2021. So that created a 9 to 10 month gap if you were planning on 26 weeks before. So for the last 9 to 10 months, a lot of companies had no materials coming in. I just yesterday, one of the engineers was telling me that there's one component that we need to build a product. The normal price for that component is $1, and they found some on the market if we wanted to buy them for $230 each. So it's like, yeah, you just can't sustain inventories when those are the challenges that you've got. We at Code were fortunate in the fact that when I got on board in December of 2020, I looked at the way that we had been planning and said, we need to do things a little bit differently. So we went out with our partners in our supply chain and started giving them a much longer forecast than we had in the past. Right now, I'm out to 18 months. So all of my sub-tier suppliers, all of my suppliers can see what I'm thinking is going to happen in the next 18 months. Now, you've all dealt with salespeople. Salespeople are going to tell you they don't know beyond the next 18 days what's going to happen.
Maybe even hours. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but we've got a real mature forecasting and planning process that all levels of our sales teams are engaged with. Our sales people are talking to the end user customers in different ways than they have in the past. And we've been encouraging some different behaviors back in the supply chain so that we can be prepared to have those inventories available. So a lot of things have changed over the last 18 months. And as a result, I think we have a stronger view of what our inventories need to be. And I think a lot of other companies are doing the same thing. So I do believe if we do want to talk about light at the end of the tunnel, I do believe that we are going to see better inventory levels before the end of this calendar year.
That's good.
That's comforting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily because things have become more available. It's because there's new ways of planning and forecasting than were ever used in the past.
Let's keep going down that path, Dave, real quick, because in the beginning there, you talked a little bit about how ops and engineering are working a little bit more closely, or this is the takeaway that I just had from what you were saying, working a lot more closely today than maybe 2 years ago in general terms. And I think I've heard this from several manufacturers now where, hey, engineering's, they're scrambling, right? They're trying to figure out, can I re-engineer the product to a component that is available or that I could get 3 months earlier than the one that I can't get. And so to me, I don't come out of the manufacturing world, but I can imagine that the communication and the camaraderie and just the overall, togetherness of ops and engineering has increased over the last couple of years. Is that a truism? Is that you're seeing that?
It is, and the way that our organization is structured is I have my own engineering team inside of ops that does a lot of that work in the background, and then we allow the R&D teams to continue to innovate. And back to the comment about innovation earlier, uh, innovation is happening. It's just not becoming a product that's sellable yet because of the supply chain challenges. When you're innovating, typically you're looking at new components that are coming onto the market, and those manufacturers of those components are saying, "Great, but everybody else, all your competition is doing the same thing." So it's going to be 52 weeks before you can get anything. So it's slowing innovation, but believe me, innovation is definitely happening. But that collaboration between operations and engineering is definitely stronger than it ever has been back in the past. And I think that I know from our personal experience, both groups appreciate that relationship much more than they had in the past. And I think that if there's one, silver lining coming out of this is I think the internal collaboration in companies is going to be much greater than it had been in the past. You've always hear operations is always complaining that, oh, you just threw that product over the wall and now it's my problem and you're off building the new shiny thing. Well, that's not the case these days. Engineering is staying involved through the life cycle of the product.
Yeah. And so some good comes out of this.
Yeah.
And I agree with you there. The last comment here is because Dave, I think you were talking about it. And I do want to make sure that resellers understand this because obviously they're frustrated, right? I mean, so
we're all frustrated.
If Dave has, 6-month lead times, 60s, whatever week lead times, then the rest of us have even worse lead times, that. I can tell you though that everybody behind the scenes, I'm gonna keep going with what you were saying there, Dave, is working really hard on all of these issues. Even I'll just speak from a distributor standpoint. We have product managers that are now allocation specialists, doing things that they wouldn't normally do on a day-to-day.
Right.
They weren't hired in to do these things, but it is all hands on deck from a product standpoint of whatever's coming in, we're going to make sure we're getting it to the right people as fast as we possibly can to meet the forecast that they're giving us and stuff like that. So it is a weird world from a manufacturing standpoint, a distribution standpoint. I think resellers understand that to a certain degree, but I can tell you a lot is happening behind the scenes to make all that work. And I think Dave just highlighted a little bit just from the manufacturing perspective, some things that are happening too.
Well, and I think that's a very important perspective to have, especially if you're someone on the front line in sales and you're dealing with those end customers who just want their stuff. They don't know what is happening.
Right, and they're right. They think that it's just, well, why don't you have it?
Exactly.
What do you mean it just extended from a 10-week lead time to 20?
And this is definitely this is not the time to do finger pointing.
No.
This is not the time to say, well, the guys at here are messing it up. They're way behind. Or the folks over here are messing it up. This is that time to be like, hey, we're all part of one big story here.
That's right.
We all take ownership of this. We're all collectively having this conversation. And just to be, I think, a lot of what Dave was saying was this idea of just transparency and honesty and just
and communication.
Yeah, communication. Right? Just telling people up front, saying, hey, the second you find out that something's going to be delayed, you communicate that out. Hey, here's your latest update. We've got an extra delay here. We're going to stay on top of this. I'll keep you informed. And again, not a unfortunately the chip providers, are way behind. So we got to wait on them but more of a big picture thing. Here's the overall situation that we're dealing with. If they want the nitty gritty and the details, fine, you can give them that information, but take ownership out of it as a whole, even though you personally, your position may have nothing to do whatsoever with why this is happening. And it's someone else's issue. It's still everyone's issue at this point.
No. Take comfort in the fact that there are a lot of people working their tails off.
Yeah, because guess what? Your competitor's dealing with the same thing. You're likely not getting beaten to this business because everyone else is dealing with the same thing. And most likely the customers that are going to stick with you and hold out, maybe even if someone else does have something a little bit sooner, might just be because you're the one that are at least being honest with them and up front the whole time and communicating all the way.
That's right. And Dave, it sounds like forecasting and planning, you said it a couple times, becoming critical, right? So you guys have got a sharper eye on forecasting than maybe you ever did.
Absolutely. And it is so critical now because the lead times are so long. We have to make guesses And uh, we can look backwards at what's been happening in our history as far as volumes go, but in this current market, looking forward, it's really I need your crystal ball actually to be able to do it. So what we've done is, we've deployed a lot of different statistical models, looking at what we've done in the past, what we think is going to happen in the future, and you talk about transparency and communication. I've had more meetings directly with distributors, resellers, and even end users, just explaining what the situation is and encouraging them to give me more visibility of what's coming down the road. So those projects where they've been working on it for 18 months and they're getting ready to deploy a whole bunch of equipment into a new customer, and they normally wouldn't come to us until 3 months before they needed it because that's their normal lead time. Now I'm starting to hear about this stuff when they start talking about it with their customers. So that's helped us out tremendously, and it's a big part of the success we've had.
Which, let's be honest, that's when you're supposed to get involved. That's when
Right.
you want to be involved.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before. Like,
Mhm.
by the time a lot of times resellers and the vendors and us get involved in a particular solution discussion or a particular project, they're already way down the line where we no longer have necessarily a lot of influence over what they're planning on doing.
That's right.
Now, if there's a bright side to this, it's you get informed a lot earlier, and maybe you have a lot more time to help really develop the solution and come up with something that's beneficial to them and to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave, can we drill into another area, because I was reading another article on this about, and so this question is really about the supply coming into you and the transportation to get it to you, because I can imagine, as in operations, 3-4 years ago, it was somewhat logistics were reliable. And so here's a quote I'll give you. So before the pandemic, and then this is talking about cargo being shipped on the ocean and stuff like that.
Yep.
The base level of only 20% of cargo ever shipped late prior to the pandemic. Over the past few months, it's now an astonishing 70% of cargo is late. So, you might have a component manufacturer in Mexico or APAC or wherever saying, oh, yeah, we'll have it manufactured in time.
Right.
But how am I going to get that? What's the time it's going to take for it to get from there to wherever it needs to be assembled or whatever? So I imagine, I guess the question to you, Dave, is logistics is maddening for all of us, for you as it is for all of us too, and your equation of trying to get these products built?
Yeah, it's a big part of the equation. The manufacturing is predictable. If the materials are there, I can tell you how long it takes to get through the factory, and I can tell you when it's on the shipping dock. I can even tell you when it goes out of the shipping dock and gets to our fulfillment centers. What I can't guarantee is when that's going to be picked up. We have traditionally shipped everything via air. We went away from ocean a while back.
Pre-pandemic, Dave? Do you know?
Yeah.
Oh,
even,
okay.
Even pre-pandemic.
Okay, got it.
And just because we wanted, like everybody else, how do you minimize inventories? Well, if I've got 60 days of inventory floating on the ocean, that's capital that's sitting out there. So we did the equations, and we felt like even pre-pandemic, air shipping was okay for us. And now fast forward through the pandemic, I used to pay $7 a kilogram for air freight. It's $13 a kilogram now for air freight. But I don't have a choice to go on ocean because just that reason at the moment, it's not predictable. We're part of a much larger corporation now, and our parent company ships ocean from Asia, bringing product in. They had stopped about 9 months ago and went air. And they just within the last 4 or 5 weeks put stuff back on the ocean. And probably by the end of 23, first quarter, or end of 22, first quarter of 23, ocean will probably be back to a very predictable delivery time, but it's not going to be the 45 days it used to be. It's probably going to settle in around 60.
Yeah. Okay. I got you.
That's what we're seeing. But for us, we didn't really have as big a disruption as some, because we've been air freighting for years.
Yeah, good move. Because obviously, and we are seeing more and more stuff being aired to us. Exactly what you just said, the commentary that you just had. I don't really watch the port congestion, but I have heard that things are getting better, and I guess you're kind of echoing that certainly by the end of the year we'll be in a little bit more of a normal, barring, knocking on wood, barring anything else from happening in this flipping crazy world. But then anyway, you're right, some normality there as well. So thank you for your take on that. I was curious on that front. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, then let's wrap up with Code here yourself, because we've talked about this whole spirit of collaboration and working together. And so I want to know a little bit from your perspective, like what's Code doing to help out with these issues right now? And I know I kind of mentioned on the Q sheet, like with end users in particular, maybe from a hardware perspective, but I think this question can kind of ripple through the entire reseller channel here. With us as the distributor and with resellers all the way down to the end users. How does Code see their role in tackling these issues right now?
I think it goes back to our direct meetings with end users. I think that by understanding their requirements in a lot more granularity than we had in the past, I think it allows us to be part of the solution rather than being the problem that's holding up their projects. So we're doing that. We're trying to get the word out through some marketing and advertising that, hey, we're here to help. We want to be part of your solution, and I think that it's having an impact on us. Quite frankly, we've got a lot of customers that are coming to us that haven't used us in the past and said, listen, I've been waiting on something for a long time. Can you help with this solution? And we can ship from stock through distribution. So that's where it's at for us right now. We're wanting to try and drive that communication as far down the line as we can.
And that helps. That helps a lot. And communication, I'll just say it again, that's where we're at.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody who's communicating and doing it well are winning more battles.
There you go.
There, yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've given a little bit of insight to the supply chain.
Yeah,
I think
some validation.
Some validation, some understanding that everyone's dealing with the same thing, a little bit of hopefulness. I feel a little better about all this. I feel like at least when folks like Dave understand what's happening and are doing everything they can, are collaborating, are providing insight, providing communication, that's all a good picture right now.
Yes. He's still putting out fires,
right?
But they're not huge, massive fires.
Yeah. Now, granted, we might check in with you after this year and see if you still feel the same as you did right now. But in the meantime, let's have a little bit of a hopeful attitude.
That's right.
And hey, while we're here, let's thank our give some gratitude and thankfulness to our sponsors.
Oh yes,
we appreciate everybody who supports the TEConnect program. Thank you so much to Code for supporting this episode and lending Dave to us today. As always, if you like our show, if you're interested in hearing more from us, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the like button for this episode. Drop us a comment. We love to get comments. We don't get a lot of them.
That's right.
But I always enjoy them when I do. When folks leave us a comment, tell us what they think about something. If you listen on an audio podcaster of your choice, if you have the option to leave a review, please do that. If you're on Apple Podcasts in particular, leave a 5-star rating review. It helps grow our audience and lets us know, what you're interested in. There's always a link in the show notes for you to provide suggestions for topics.
Is that how they get a free shirt, John?
They get a free T-shirt for doing that, just for suggesting something to us. We don't even have to use it for the show. You just give us a suggestion. We will send you a T-shirt. Look for that link in the show notes. You can always, send one in to us. And of course, as always, if you want to stay in touch with us, keep connected with us, you can find us on Twitter at TEConnectPod. You can also email us anytime, TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap things up here with our two recurring segments. One, our value to the VAR. This is our way of kind of trying to wrap up this conversation with a question that is directed really to our VAR audience, something they can maybe take away from this, something they can do right now. So Dave, what's your advice for VARs right now? If they have customers, they probably have a lot of customers like in the situations we were just talking about. They're just trying to stay afloat.
Yep.
They're just trying to stay on top of things, especially if it's customers in the world of supply chain.
Yep.
And maybe they don't have time for a full-on sales conversation. They're not even remotely thinking about adopting new technology maybe right now because they've just got too much stuff to work with. So what can a VAR be doing to truly help out right now, even if it's not someone they can get a sale out of?
Yeah, so we've some of the conversations we've actually had with the VARs is trying to future-proof some of the deals that they've been working on. And we've been encouraging them to maybe even carry a little bit of inventory themselves to help buffer that just a bit. And I think that that's been helpful. We've got a couple of really good resellers out there that have done so, and they've been able to actually save some deals that otherwise they would have lost if they hadn't taken those extra steps.
I think that's a really good move. I mean, right? You got to communicate some of the other value adds that you have, especially if you're trying to communicate with a customer. Hey, look, I don't have time, but how can you continue to support them if they don't have time to learn about the new technologies and try to pitch those to their end users? How else can you support them through what channels can you help them? We've talked a lot about different things, whether it's service and warranties or expanding those. We're seeing a lot of influx on, okay, well, if I can't get the product, at least maybe I can extend the warranty on that.
Right.
These kinds of things can be very helpful to a reseller in times like these, if you ask me. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's that communication aspect again.
Yeah,
it's that whole idea of just keeping in touch.
Yep.
It's fine if they don't have business for you today. And even if they tell you like, well, we probably won't even have time to think about doing something new or changing things for another year or so.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean you just go radio silent for a year and then show up next year, knock on the door, and be like, you ready to talk about a new device that you need now? No, keep in touch,
That's right.
regular check-ins, stop in.
Right.
Even if it's just to call them up and say, hey, how are things going? Is anything getting better for you guys? What's going on right now? It's, to me, that's always been a big part of what I think makes a good salesperson is someone that is not trying to sell to you with every single interaction.
Well, absolutely. And leverage this unique environment that we're in by communicating the information that you do get.
Exactly.
Even if and we've all got it, right? I mean, it's from the logistics company telling you, oh, no, it's on the truck now and it'll get to you tomorrow. 5 days later, it comes in. We all understand what's going on, but again, communication is key. So just leverage that. To me, that would be a touch point of trying to keep in contact with my key customers at a minimum. Hey, let's talk about the projects that we have in plan. Do we need to get engineering back in play? Do I need to get back to the vendor and their engineering department to see if there's any other way that we can work a solution or something like that? This is what needs to be done. Right?
And don't hurt. It never hurts to ask about their problems. Like,
That's right.
what are you dealing with? What is your headaches right now? Because you never know. You might actually have a solution for them. Maybe it's not what you normally work with them about, or what you normally talk about, or the kind of solutions you typically sell. Maybe they tell you what some of their headaches are, and you go, you know what? I actually kind of think we could help out with that in some way.
Because I'll just go back to the fact, I'm telling you, it's all hands on deck, behind the scenes. Everybody's trying to do whatever they can in order to facilitate solutions and product and stuff like that. So we won't give out Dave's cell phone number, but I'm sure that he and his engineering team, in the appropriate manner, if there was something that they could do for an end user, he already said it. He's talking to customers, all the time, trying to figure that out. And that's the atmosphere that we're in.
Well, if you're anything like us, we get random emails sometimes to our podcast email.
Oh,
like, hey, can you get me some inventory on this? Give me a quote for that. Like, that's not us.
Yes,
like,
we're a podcast. What?
But, we pass it along and do our diligence there.
That's absolutely right.
I like the comment about the extended warranties and things like that. And also the helping reinvent the use of some products. Our tech support team, all day, every day is doing just that. New challenges might come up in the world out there for customers. And rather than going out and buying new tech, they're reaching out to our resources and saying, hey, can we use our existing tech to solve these problems? And our guys are masters at that. And I think tech support right now is probably one of the most valuable resources that a company can have in this market.
And how much, what does that tell your customer also when you go to them and say, hey, I'm not here to sell you something new. I'm here to tell you how you can do something more with what you already have.
Yeah, exactly right.
That's a pretty powerful message to be able to tell somebody, because it, again, lends that air of like, you don't look at me as just someone to make some money off of, but as someone that's a partner and a relationship, and you're trying to help me out. And if I can, I'll help you out then in the future too. So.
Yeah. Yeah, because when
Very good point.
when fields are greener here, that they will be
Right.
soon, right? They'll remember that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It'll come back to you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's wrap up as always with our favorite segment. What's Tech Connecting with you? This is
Yes.
where we get to talk about something in the world of science,
Yes.
tech, innovation,
Yes,
business.
yes.
Something that's caught our eye, got our attention, something we were reading about. It could be something that's terrifying.
Nothing
something that's
freaking out
delighting
today.
us.
Come on, we just talked about
No,
supply
I
chain.
have
Give me a break.
I have no freaking outs. Yeah, we had a whole episode on tech beefs last week of all the things that made us cranky.
That's right,
So
that's
I think
right.
I'm out of that for a
All
little
right,
while.
fair enough.
Dave, I'll let you start. What's Tech Connecting with you right now?
Oh, I'll tell you. I touched on it just a little while ago with the whole drone thing. We are starting to see a lot of interest in warehouse management using drones. So all of us that have warehouses or have been in those environments in the past, think of all of the human resources that we use to maintain our inventories. If we could have a drone automatically do that for us and feed the information back to us, it frees up a lot of resources that I can allocate to productivity type items that might help us, innovate more or provide more better service to our customers. So, to me, that technology is exciting, and I'm anxious to see where it goes.
Yeah, I agree with you. That kind of stuff, of course, autonomous vehicles, it's coming, right? And we talk about it a lot. I don't know. The little drone that I bought for Christmas it just seems so inadequate when we start talking about things like that.
Yeah, I think it's a little different level of technology.
Little different technology, yes. You see each of it. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got them now where you clip a little device on your belt and it follows you.
Oh, that's
So-
cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's so you see a lot of videos of folks on mountain bikes running through the trees, and you wonder, how do they get a drone to keep up? Well, it's the same. I guess it's the same technology as those pull behind golf carts from years ago, where you could have your golf bag follow you around the golf course. Now they're doing it with drones.
Like virtually tethered, if you will, right?
There you go.
Yes. Yes. Now, in all seriousness, are you guys working with drones companies like with because I know your scan engine is used in a lot of different places. Not to divulge any secrets. I'm not trying to do anything like that, but just your take there real quick.
Yeah, I definitely will say that there are OEMs out there that have a great interest in this right now.
That's what I figured. Right.
And it is coming. And I think that I have a feeling 5 years from now we'll be having a totally different conversation about it.
Okay, we're bringing you back.
I was going to say, let's book that podcast.
Absolutely. Very good. I like it. I like it.
Dean, what's Tech Connecting with you?
All right, here's my headline. Scientists cover a robotic finger in human skin.
Oh.
So
I thought you said we weren't going for something terrifying
well,
here.
no, that was you. Now, I'm allowed to go terrifying. So if you're as a roboticist, I guess at the University of Tokyo, have taken a tiny step towards creating the Terminator. I love how this starts off. Yeah, you've already cringing, right? They built an artificial robot finger that's seamlessly covered in living human skin, right? And so the article goes on to talk about, some materials like rubber and silicone, it's not human skin. It's not, it doesn't bend, it doesn't wrinkle, it doesn't do what needs to be done. In this case, sometimes Mother Nature has created the perfect thing. Well, okay, so they went ahead and did it. They have attached, they have wrapped a robotic finger in living skin tissue. Yes. So maybe we're one step closer to I'll be back.
Yeah. Can't wait.
Yeah. You can't wait. So, when we get older, we talk about this. When we retire someday, we're going to need assistance, right?
That's true.
Wouldn't you like somebody that has somewhat human feeling rather than
maybe we
some
could host the
hard
podcast.
metal punk?
Yeah, maybe we could host the
poking
podcast from the comfort of our couch, and our robotic skin covered selves could come in here and do the actual work.
Yes, I know we were supposed to have all that now, by the way, because we grew up watching the Jetsons, and we're supposed to have this thing. Where Rosie the robot didn't have skin on.
No, she was just a robot. No,
so you're still freaked out about this. You're not. I don't know.
mean,
that you're right.
It's one of those okay, cool, but why? Unless your point is that you want to make as humanly realistic robots as possible.
Yes,
and then you start, and then that's when I have to start going, how badly can that go?
Yes, I see. And then you just go down the path in doom and gloom.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
An army of It's
every sci-fi show of lifelike droids and robots, going rogue or whatever, or are demanding the rights that we don't give them because we still treat them like awful machines, so.
Before I hand it to you, a quick bar stool, and I don't know if this is right because I mentioned it. When was George Jetson born? If you look at Wiki, do you know when he was born?
Let me guess that the years are probably already passed.
No. 2022.
Oh, wow.
This was now I don't know if it's true because again I was sitting at a bar and somebody showed me the wiki page.
Right.
But so if George Jetson was born today, that means in the very near future we should
because he's probably in his 30s. Yeah, I would say
we should be flying around. We should be having robots. We should be no.
We're gonna be lucky if we have enough autonomous vehicles on the road in 30 years, let alone that. So
all right, good point. All right, so what's TEConnecting with you, my man?
All right, well I have maybe a slightly more hopeful one in the world of science here. Doctors have successfully transplanted a 3D printed ear made from human cells onto a woman born with a rare ear deformity.
Oh, see, there we go. Human skin, though.
Well, it is, yes,
yeah,
but
right.
We're putting it on another human, not a robot.
Yours is for good. Mine is for domination of the world.
Yours is for questionable. Yeah. The company is called 3D Biotherapeutics. They're looking at this as a potential revolution. It's still a clinical trial right now with I think 11 participants, and it's apparently it's for folks that are born with a rare condition called microtia, which happens to 1,500 babies born in the U.S. each year, which basically occurs where one or both ears are underdeveloped or missing entirely. So essentially, what they did is they literally took and apparently normally they have to use like rib grafts or synthetic materials to make these ears.
Yeah, right.
But this one, they took a biopsy from the patient's existing ear and pulled out cartilage cells.
Okay.
Grew and 3D printed them into a duplicate of her ear.
3D printed them. Wow.
And then because it's grown from her, one, it's regenerative cartilage, so it keeps regenerating over the lifetime, and much less likely to be rejected because it's from her own
Exactly,
cells.
right.
So this is coming on the heels of, we had that whole transplanted pig's heart.
Yeah,
although that patient ended up dying, unfortunately.
Right.
There's apparently research groups that are working on 3D printed lungs, blood vessels. So, interesting, exciting potential technology there for some replacement parts.
I still got to get square in my mind 3D printing and flesh. Right?
I know, right.
How does that? I don't know that I want to see the video, but maybe I do need to see the video to kind of square that up.
I don't know if it's probably as disturbing as you might think.
Probably not. Yeah. Probably very, innocuous.
I find it always interesting that we do a lot of like interesting science experiment stuff and healthcare related stuff with ears. Like remember when they grew the ear on the mouse a few years back?
Yes.
I just find it fascinating that I guess it kind of makes sense because it's a sort of simplistic organ. I mean, the internal workings obviously are difficult, but the actual
it's cartilage, it's skin.
Exactly.
If you can conquer that, then there's a lot of places I guess you can go.
Very much so.
Okay, yours is better.
I'm all for I have a feeling I'm going to need some 3D printed parts in the future. My knees are probably going to go out at some point. I'm
going to need some 3D printed parts. Yes,
various things I could see I might need some 3D.
Maybe we should start investing in this company now so that we can just get free demos and stuff like that.
Maybe we should. So
Good stuff.
That's what's TEConnecting with us right now. Dave Frick from Code, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
So until next time, maybe keep your skin off your robots.
Keep it off, for now. Yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
Forever. Share some of your mountain of data with your colleagues and
share the data.
Other companies in your industry. And as always, folks, please stay connected. TEConnect Podcast is brought to you by Code. All right, Dean, we've discussed many times on this podcast the importance of using purpose-built hardware and software for enterprises over consumer-grade options, right?
It's critical.
Yeah. So there might be nowhere that's truer than healthcare, where reliable, accurate, and fast tools could literally mean the difference between life and death.
Point well taken, my friend.
I think it's important to think about these things there. Well, Code understands this, and so does EHR provider Epic, who was the first to recognize the advantages of having robust, mobile-ready decoding capabilities built into their Epic Rover application. So they integrated Code's Cortex decoder software into their platform.
We were just talking about that.
Podcast today.
Yes, sir.
Cortex decoder is a fast, reliable set of integrated barcode decoding tools and algorithms that provides a secure and dependable software-based decoding solution without sacrificing speed or privacy. With multiple SDK options available, Cortex decoder can meet your healthcare customers' needs. here are just some of the key features and benefits. No minimum license requirements, no usage caps,
Nice.
reads over 40 barcode symbologies, flexible OS integration, near zero miss accuracy. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty good. Yep.
And much more. So I'd say they've kind of got this covered here on this
I would think so.
hyper scanning beyond the consumer grade scanning. Because look, you can go out and find a million scanning apps.
Oh, sure.
On App Store and Google Store and stuff like that. Nah, don't mess with any of those.
Especially in this environment. Healthcare? Are you kidding
Yeah,
me?
exactly.
We can't have errors.
So next time you're talking to your healthcare customer, if they're saying, we scan all this stuff here on our phones, ask them what are they using and how do they like it, because odds are Cortex to go is going to be better for them.
Bingo.
So to learn more, contact your BlueStar code representative.